What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Team 69 Q channel. My name is Midget and this video is for everybody who wants to build a very decent healer in the Elder Scrolls Online. Now this character will work across all platforms. If you play PS4, Xbox One or PC, this build will work anywhere, so you guys should really enjoy this. Now it has taken me quite some time to build this class up and sort of know what does work for me, so this is how I find it effective and what I can get the best results from pretty much for this character build. There'll be some other people out there that can say you could change this for this or change the armor for that, but this is what works for me and is very effective in PvE and dungeons mainly, because that's what my character is built for. You can take it into PvP, but you do need to have some decent people with you whilst you use your healer class, because it does damage, but it does also rely heavily on healing. So yeah, we'll start off with the armor set that I use. Now a lot of people use a 5-set piece, so they use five pieces for chest, head, legs, armor, greaves and feet. What I tend to do is I mix 2 sets together, so I use rings, necklace, and one or 2 other pieces for one set, and the rest I use for another set. So at the minute I'm using 2 parts of the Combat Precision set, which gives 2 maximum Magicka bonuses, which is what I heavily rely on. And I also use 3 parts of the Bahara's Curse, which also provides 2 maximum Magicka bonuses and 1 max health bonus. Like I say, you could use a full 5-set piece for 1 complete set, but I'm just purely concentrating on Magicka. As a healer, Magicka is important, and obviously the regen and the amount of Magicka you can sort of have over time and gain back as quick as you can is going to be the way to go. And like I say, my chest and head, I haven't really said anything about them because I cycle them between monster sets. So at the minute I use the Ice Heart's Epaulettes and monster set. So basically that gives me a damage shield of 13,000 when I'm in PvE dungeons. And also switch those between like Valken Scoria, the Alambris set, Grothdar set, all the rest of it depending on the dungeon. So I'll go through into different videos about the monster sets that I use for this set. So most importantly, we'll go into the skills now. So my bar 1 is basically a buffs bar. I'll read through the buffs first and then I'll tell you exactly how to use the 2 bars together. So what I tend to use, my main healer is main healing ability is called Breath of Life, and that is obviously the morph version, pretty much for the healing. And I like this one because it is the most effective quick heal you can do. When I first started this build, I did used to repeatedly tap the X button as soon as someone's health bar just dropped a little bit, but it's not the way to use it. I tend now to use the heal when I see teammates or just friendly people with at least 40 to 50% of their health left, because when I tap one breath of life, it pulls them completely back up to the top again. And that's obviously the best way to keep your Magicka quite high as well, because the more you tap the heal button, it does cost quite a bit of Magicka to keep casting, so you want to make sure you cast it in the right moments. I have that on both bars, so in bar 1 and 2 I do have Breath of Life, so I don't have to keep cycling between the 2 to get a heal out. Also on the same bar I do use Ritual of Retribution, and this is basically something you can cast. It's a big circle that goes around you. At the same time as dealing damage to the enemies, it also heals any friendly allies standing in the circle. The circle does last for 12 seconds, so if you're in a fight and obviously you're trying to cover people, you don't have to worry about healing too much, cast this circle down and you can actually get people healing whilst you're doing damage whilst the circle is still active. And I try to make sure that's active all the time. As well as Ritual of Retribution, I use Repentance. This is basically also something I cast in, and it basically gives you maximum Magicka recovery, also health and stamina. It's basically the same, similar to the last one. So I cast it and people get really good buffs off it. It makes my increased stamina go up and Magicka and healing and stuff like that. So it's just basically a higher buff of casting Magicka out. Like I say, with those 2 out at the same time, one does the healing, one does the Magicka regen, and I don't have to worry too much about healing whilst I'm doing damage dealing. I also use Rune Focus. This is optional, you don't have to use this. A lot of people will use other buffs in this, or even a damage dealing ability, but I prefer to use this because you can actually get Major Ward, increase in physical resistance and spell resistance when this is active. So it increased that by 5,280. With my champion points as well, that's increased by about 4, I think it is. So I do get a lot of spell and critical resistance whilst I use this. And again, I always call these 3 abilities in at the same time. So I'll call in Retribution to get the circle down, I'll call in Repentance to get the Magicka gain up, and I'll also call Rune Focus in to gain me sort of more physical and spell resistance. It also works for allies as well. I then use Dark Flare. Now the only reason I use this is because I haven't actually got any decent proper sort of like mage abilities from the Mages Guild unlocked yet, because I haven't got that far through. So I do use this mainly because of the fact it does 8,152 magic damage, and I've got the area of effect, so I can cast this. It does area damage as well, and it's quite a good one to have if an enemy is quite low on health. Just cast it in from a distance and it will take them out straight away. I also with this use Thunderstorm, which is the ultimate for the staffs, destruction staffs. I did used to use Solar Flare. Obviously people can get the Supernova synergy from that if they call it in, but I do prefer to have the Electric Storm, mainly because I want to get it morphed and it does a lot of damage and it lasts for quite a while as well. And for monster sets it's a damage and over time effect, so if I need something that's got damage over time, I can call in this ultimate and my monster sets come into play really quickly. So like I say, I would cast in those 3 abilities, get the Magicka, spell resistance and healings up whilst it's doing damage to the enemy, and then I'll flick to my bar 2. Now my bar 2 is the damage dealing side. So like I say, I've got the Breath of Life on, which is what I use for the heals, so I have to keep flicking between the two. I use Purifying Light. Now this is something you press and it goes onto the enemy like a big gold beam. There's 2 variants to this. You can have just a big gold beam or a gold beam that has a green circle around it. The green circle one is okay, but it does less damage and it doesn't heal, whereas the main beam does healing over time when the allies are standing next to the enemy that's being hit, and also does an increased damage. Now the unbuffed version of this does 8,000 damage. This one does maximum damage of 21,327. So obviously that's the reason why I use that, and obviously for the heals as well. Anything that casts out heals I don't have to keep pressing the Breath of Life for is fantastic. I also use Inner Light, but I don't actually use the attack as such. It's just something I have in my skill bar because it increases my max Magicka by 3%. And my Major Prophecy increased my spell critical rate by 2,000 as well. So with the other buff I've got that does 5,000 increased, it also does 2,000 on this one as well. So just have that slotted in your bar and it will increase your buffs to that amount. And then for damage dealing for this bar, because obviously like I said, this is my damage dealing side, I use Blazing Spear and I also use Radiant Oppression, which is obviously what people class as the Jesus beam. A lot of you have heard people say that in the past and up to date as well. Blazing Spear basically is Blessed Shards. The one I've got does the stun and does the disorient, so it does the damage over time. And don't just call one of these in. I'll put some gameplay over the top so you can see what I'm actually talking about. Don't just call one Blessed Shards in. Repeatedly press it because you'll do massive damage over time, and that's what your Magicka bar is for. And obviously the synergy people will get the what's it called? Blessed Shard synergy restoring 25% stamina. So if you've got a Nightblade or anything with you, the stamina can increase by 1700 over 10 seconds. And that's for every Blessed Shard. So just repeatedly do that. You can cause massive damage and keep your tanks or Nightblades up with stamina as well from getting the synergy. Now the Radiant Oppression, which is the Jesus beam, I use the one that does 10,000 magic damage over 2.9 seconds. And does the 20% additional damage in proportion to your current Magicka. So if I've got a full Magicka bar when I use this, it does tremendous damage. And like I say, the synergy at the bottom does say targets below 50% health take up to 330% damage. So what I tend to do is towards the end of a life bar for an enemy that I'm attacking, I'll chuck in a load of Blessed Shards, I'll make sure I've got my synergies down so I'm doing more damage over time, and then I'll chuck in this Radiant Oppression, and the enemy will just die completely instantly, and it's fantastic. With this I use Remembrance, which is the healing ultimate. Now the only reason why I do this is because if we do get into a bit of a sticky situation and the Magicka hasn't regened in time to get a heal off, and everybody's going down, or about to be, I'll call in this main heal, and basically I don't take damage and the allies don't take damage whilst they're being healed over like 5 seconds I think it is, and by the time that synergy is finished my Magicka bar has gone back up to about a quarter to half, so I do have enough Magicka to get back into the fight and do constant heals and get the ultimate back up again. And like I say, I'm going to put some video footage over this. I think it's from my last live stream. I'll show you so you can see what's going on. So like I say, I call my buffs in, make my spell resistance, Magicka recovery, sorry, and spell resistance, critical resistance, all the rest of it, and the heals with the big circles. I'll get those buffs in first, then I'll switch the bar to bar 2 and just go Blessed Shards, Radiant Oppression, and Purifying Light. So hopefully guys you sort of understood this. If you want a bit more clarity and more depth to this, I'll put some comments in the description if you ask me any questions, and I'll get back to you pretty much. But yeah, hopefully you found this very interesting and very useful. Like I say, I will go through the monster sets at some point. I'm just busy collecting them at the minute, and I'm going to make videos of them showing which ones are the best. But yes, hope you guys did enjoy this video and have some useful tips to either build your Templar healer on this class, or just have some ideas and mix with ones you have. And like I say, my class is a Breton Templar, and that's purely for the magicka and health recovery that I can get with that class. So yeah, like I say, hope you found this interesting, and my name has been Midget. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I'll see you very soon.